Today's video is one that we've wanted to make for months. After working over a year on the new Defy 2.0 firmware, it's finally here. If you have a Raise 2, don't go anywhere. We have also released the 1.2 firmware for the Raise 2. First of all, let's address the elephant in the room. Why has it taken us so long to release the 2.0 firmware for the Defy? I don't want to bother you with the technicalities, but basically we hit a dead end when trying to fix the bugs on the 1.2.7 firmware we released in February 2024. We had to completely rewrite the way the different chips on the keyboard communicate between them. We also had to work on a firmware platform that could be shared between the Raise 2 and the Dygma Defy. That way, we'd be more efficient and both keyboards would get updates at the same time. Our wireless keyboards are comprised of 7 chips. You have the key scanners, one on each side, which register the key presses and also handle the LED drivers. Then, that information is sent to the RF PCBs, which send the information to the neuron via radio frequency. Finally, the neuron transforms the key presses into key codes your computer can understand and sends them via Bluetooth or USB, depending on how you have the keyboard connected. The problem we faced was that those chips send the information without verifying whether the receiving chip was ready or not. It was like being at a family dinner where everybody tries to speak at the same time. Information was lost. With the new rewrite, chips ask if they can send a message before doing so. This is simple to explain, but difficult to implement with so many chips communicating back and forth simultaneously. That's why, while the first versions of the 2.0 firmware were ready in October, we haven't been able to release it until now. Many new bugs arose from this new communication system, and we had to eradicate them. To give you an idea, there have been 23 beta releases of the 2.0 firmware. So, what's new in the Defy 2.0 firmware? First and foremost, rewritten communications have brought greater stability and faster response times, especially when waking the keyboard from sleep. It's difficult to put into words, but the keyboard feels snappier. In our latency tests, we have 5 milliseconds wired, 7 milliseconds wireless, and 22 milliseconds Bluetooth. To put this into perspective, the Apple Magic Keyboard has over 40 milliseconds. Bluetooth connectivity has also improved. You should not have any brief disconnects while using Bluetooth. We've also rewritten the LED effects for better efficiency, and most importantly, the LED driver now turns off when the lights are set to 0% brightness, improving battery life. Finally, we've added more configuration options for Add a Key on Tap, which will be very helpful for those of you who want to use home row modifiers. This is when you have a key configured to be a standard key on tap, say space, and a modifier or layer shift on hold. The new settings are minimum hold time and minimum prior interval, and you will find them under Preferences, Typing and Keys. Minimum hold time is excellent to avoid accidentally triggering the hold function when rolling your keys. This is when you press the next key before completely releasing the previous one, which is something that most of us do.
That happened to me.
We recommend setting it to 90 milliseconds if you have that issue. Minimum prior interval is less critical. It sets the minimum time that has to pass between pressing 2 keys in succession for the hold function to be triggered. For example, if the value is set too high, the hold function won't be triggered if you press the key shortly after pressing another key. If you have a Dygma Raise 2, here's what's improved from version 1.1. We fixed a bug where if you set any LED timer to 0, other timers wouldn't work. This also meant that the LED timers on wired-only Raise 2 keyboards didn't work, so the keyboard would always have the lights on. We also improved stability when using the wireless Raise 2 in wired mode. Finally, we fixed other bugs related to LEDs, like the one where some colors wouldn't work on positions 10 to 16 of the color palette in Bazecor, or a bug that caused the right side of the keyboard to have some LEDs off when waking the keyboard from a deep sleep on Bluetooth. So how can you update to the new firmware? The first and most important step in updating to the new firmware is ensuring that you have Bazecor 1.5 installed. You can check that at the bottom of the Preferences menu. And if you are not sure, you can always go to dygma.com/Bazecor and download the latest version. Then go to the firmware update menu and follow the steps. Here are some important recommendations. To flash the firmware, you need to connect the keyboard wired. Use the Dygma provided cables and connect the keyboard directly to the computer. Avoid USB hubs or KVMs if possible. This new firmware updates the size of the keyboard and the neuron, so please be patient. If the keyboard stays dark after the process is finished, don't turn it on or off. Let it be for 20 or 30 seconds. Let it be. If the flashing procedure gets stuck for a few minutes at any point, you can close Bazecor, disconnect the keyboard, and restart the process. If the process fails midway, the sides of the keyboard might have a different firmware than the neuron, so they will flash red and won't type. Don't worry. We've linked instructions in the description on how to fix that. And you can always reach us at support@dygma.com. Finally, Bazecor should restore your layers after updating the firmware, but if it doesn't, you can restore them from Preferences, Backups, Restore from Last Backup. So now that you have flashed the new firmware, you might be asking yourself, what's next? The new Defy 2.0 and Raise to 1.2 firmware are a significant step forward, but they are not perfect. We aim to continue improving connectivity and eliminating the remaining minor bugs. For example, Bluetooth over wired can be confusing. You might see the Bluetooth pairing interface when booting your computer with the keyboard wired. Pressing the top left key brings you back to wired, but it should not happen at all. We are creating a more refined state machine that will prevent the keyboard from going into Bluetooth mode when both sides of the keyboard are connected to the neuron, unless you intentionally press the Bluetooth pairing key. If you didn't know this, you can use Bluetooth while the keyboard is wired. You just need to press the Bluetooth pairing key on your keyboard. This is useful for connecting to a second device while charging the keyboard with your computer. To return to wire mode, press the Bluetooth pairing key and then the top left key on your keyboard. We also have a few weird LED bugs. For example, when switching Bluetooth channels, the right side might show the wrong underglow color until you switch layers. In some rare cases, the keyboard's LEDs are off after waking from deep sleep. And if you have keys set to black, the LEDs might show a very faint red when the keyboard is wired. Finally, during Bluetooth pairing, there is a very slight chance that the neuron resets, causing your layers to be lost. You can restore them under Preferences, Backups. But of course, this is something that we want to fix because it can be really annoying. However, instead of fixing these bugs individually, we will continue improving the communication between the chips. To explain it bluntly, the next step is that the chips not only ask before sending a message, but also confirm that the message was received correctly. That means that the next firmware release might take a couple of months, but we believe tackling the issues from the root is best. Once we do that, we'll go into finer details, solving any remaining bugs, and then move on to the other two critical issues, improving battery life and making super keys work like they should. And that's it! But before we end, we want to thank the community from the bottom of our hearts. Your help polishing the firmware by trying all the different betas we've released during the past months has been critical. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, we also want to thank those who haven't tested the betas but have waited patiently for this firmware release. We hope you enjoy it while we continue working on improving the firmware. Hasta la vista, baby!